These are all the military bases the United States has around the world. You know, no other country has this. Just the United States has this. Nobody else does this. China, Russia, they don't have bases all over the world. Who does? We do. Because that's how capitalism ends up. You have to use a gun to keep it going. And you have to become fascist. And this is why our country is going down the shitter. And we're ending like all great empires end. We're overextending militarily while we won't take care of our own people at home. That's where your money's going, because your government is 100% corrupt. Not regular corrupt. It's 100% corrupt. This is called corruption. Do you see this? Do you know what this is called? This is called $1 trillion a year in corruption, because that's all this is. These people are there, these military bases are there to make sure American corporations can extract natural resources from these places. Look at all the...
So Donald Trump and the United States of America is in massive trouble. Massive trouble. Why? I'll tell you why. Venezuela. Massive issues. So Venezuela is in debt to China, and Venezuela decided to say to China, hey, we'll pay off our debt in oil. China is completely okay with that. They're a growing economy, they're smart, they're civilized, and they have a lot of common sense. The United States of America, however, has no common sense because they're led by an idiot. So Donald Trump says, we're going to go into Venezuela and it's going to be all about drugs. And we know it's not about drugs because he's just pardoned a man that brought $400 million worth of cocaine into the United States of America. It's about oil. The United States is going to Venezuela and invade Venezuela and attack Venezuela because of oil. And the reason they're going to do that is because the US of A is bankrupt. They need resources. They need oil. So now the oil that Venezuela promised China, they're not going to be able to deliver because Donald Trump is going to steal it because of an invasion. And that's going to piss off the Chinese. And the Chinese are much stronger than the United States of America in so many ways. So are the Chinese going to attack America? No, they don't need to. They'll just cut off the supply chains. And America will die slowly. And it's going to be because of Donald J. Trump.
Shalom. All praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, Bahashem Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS to give us his truth and all his purity. And salutations to all you Akim pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth. This lesson is going into how Babylon, America, is crashing out. You know, they're losing power, they're losing grip, and, you know, their only option is to crash out. You know, they're going to go out with a bang. And I'm talking about the Edomites in general, but starting with America, because America is, you know, the power force for these Edomites. You know, this is where Esau get all his power, because Europe alone cannot hold Edomite supremacy. You know, it needs America, and America's been the tool that the elites have used to smash the whole entire planet Earth, the hammer of the earth, like the scriptures call it. You know. So that's what they've been doing ever since their inception. And, you know, it shouldn't be no surprise when Trump talking about going to war and attacking Venezuela, then Mexico, Colombia, and Nigeria. You know, it's no surprise. This has always been the so-called white man's history, attacking those that are, you know, weaker than him. That don't have no power. And those countries I just mentioned just so happen to be Israelite countries, right? Which is no coincidence. You know, we all know all this is done by design. They want to attack those countries because those are Israelite countries. They're not going after China, you know, Russia directly. They're gonna go through Venezuela, which is so-called weaker, and they're allies with Russia and China. So this is why this is happening, man. Right? They see that the enemies is on their doorsteps, and pretty much Venezuela, with the oil they have, they could kind of navigate through those tariffs and economic sanctions that America has been putting on them. They could navigate by dealing with Russia and China, but that's not what Esau wants. Esau wants our people in total subjection. He wants total control over the whole earth, but mainly starting with the Israelites, right? So this is Revelation chapter 18, and I'm going to start at 20. It says, "Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for Yahweh Shemashah have avenged you on her." The her speaking about Babylon the Great. And the reason why we're going to rejoice over Babylon the Great is because Yahweh Shemashah is going to take vengeance for us, for what happened to us, in our lifetimes, growing up, shit we done went through, which majority of the stuff we go through as Israelites is due to the so-called white man oppressing us. Because we wouldn't be, on this side of the earth, going through hell, paying bills, having to go through all this, if the so-called white man didn't kidnap us and enslave us, So we're going to rejoice. There's no justice for us, at the hands of the so-called white man, So it's going to have to take a third party, which the third party, it's the first party, should I say. It's Yahweh Shemashah to come and save the children of Israel from those that are stronger than them, All throughout the scriptures, the Lord refers to Israel as worm Jacob, powerless, man, no defense, So the Lord is going to come down to defend us. Verse 21, "And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down and shall be found no more at all." Yeah, so the great millstone is going into what? Those missiles. That represents great destruction, And before the missiles hit, the Lord would send his servants out, the prophets, to warn the people of the coming destruction. Just like how Noah warned the world of the coming flood. The scriptures say the Lord doesn't do anything unless he reveals it unto his servants, the prophets. Amos 3, right? So the great millstone, it starts with this word, starting with this ministry, which affects reality, the physical realm. It's through this word that all these things start taking place all over the earth. The wars and the rumors of wars, the famines, the pestilences, all these things are happening because of the words of Yahweh Shemashah that we bringing out. It's not by coincidence. Verse 22, it says, "And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee." So the Lord is going to totally waste America, Babylon the Great, with missiles, man. All right. So the point is, America is going to go down by violence. Just like how they're spreading violence all over the earth, this is the same way they're going to get taken out. Matter of fact, Jeremiah. Yep. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, and I'm going to jump up to verse, I'm going to start at 21. It says, "Go up against the land of Maritime, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pekod, waste and utterly destroy after them, saith the Lord, and do according to all that I have commanded thee." And when you go into the words for Maritime in the Hebrew is Marathiim, right? And when you go into it, it says double rebellion, another name for Babylon. So Marathiim means double rebellion. So America Babylon the Great is double rebellion against the Lord. You know, they rebel against Yahweh Bashim Ashai, the Heavenly Father, on a daily basis, on a second basis, millisecond. Every single, piece of time that's taking place, there's wickedness going on all over Babylon the Great. You want to talk idolatry, the worship of other gods. You want to talk about adultery. You want to talk about LGBTQ, RST, you name it. Wickedness is going on all over America. And not just in America, but all over the earth. Because the scriptures say how America, Babylon, would spread its wine, which means its philosophies, its way of life, its democracy, how it would spread its wine all over the earth, So wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth. But the wickedness starts from Babylon the Great. This is the epicenter of all the evil, So this is why the judgment that's coming is going to mainly take place here in Babylon. The rest of the world, they're going to get judged too. The rest of the earth is going to feel the wrath of Yahweh Bashim Ashai, but not like Babylon the Great. This is the place of double rebellion. So it says, go up against the land of Merathaim, even against it and against the inhabitants of Pekod. Now, Pekod, when you go into it, is Pakwada. It says visitation, a people in the Babylonian army and a tribe in southeast Babylon, bordering Elam, right? But it means visitation. So the land of visitation, the place where the Lord is going to bring his judgment, is Babylon the Great. All right? This is not speaking about ancient Babylon, because the ancient Babylon got his judgment. It was taken out by the Persians and the Medes, right? It wasn't utterly destroyed. So verse 22 says, a sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. So a sound of battle is in the land. This is why all the talks in the news is about wars, war with Venezuela, war with Russia, war with Iran, war between Myanmar and Taiwan or Thailand, wars happening all over the earth, but the war that we're looking for is the Third World War, which will start over there in the Middle East region, Yahweh Shai, whom the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ, he warned us about wars and rumors of wars. So, yeah, there's wars taking place all different parts all over the earth. But the war that the scriptures speak about, the war to end all wars, the third war, that's going to be over there in the Middle East region, where all nations will be gathered there, right? So it says, a sound of battle is in the land of great destruction, right? This is why Trump is, making all these wars, to try to keep that American hegemony, that Edomite supremacy over the earth. But these nations aren't having it anymore, because now they all have their hands on missiles, on nuclear technology, So now, they're defending themselves, and they're aligning themselves with Russia and or China, and eventually it's going to be a whole coalition of them, including, like it says in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, it says Gog and Magog, which is Russia. It says Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, Turkey. All these nations going to come together to go against the other side, which is America, Babylon, NATO, Japan, them countries that that's allies with America, right? So it's going to be a great battle, World War III. Verse 23, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? America has been that hammer that's been stumping, breaking down all nations that don't align with their agendas. If there's a leader that is against central banks or is against certain agendas such as LGBT or whatever, they'll straight up kill him, take him out, and replace him with a puppet. You know, and if they can't do that, then they stir up propaganda to justify an invasion, military coups. You know, blow up the country to smithereens. You know, Libya, Afghanistan. Matter of fact, just earlier today, they dropped bombs on Syria. You know, so America's the hammer of the earth, Babylon. You know, and there's this general that had an interview. He was in the Pentagon during 9/11. Well, during and after, I guess. But pretty much he mentioned how they gave him a list of the countries they were going to invade in the coming years. And all those countries just so happened to not have a central bank. And the last ones on the list, Iran, I think Iran, North Korea, Venezuela is part of that, and I think Cuba as well, right? So he basically said that he asked why, and he said his superior said, I don't know. And basically how they have a big military, and when you have a big military, every problem looks like a nail and you got to smash it. This is what he said. So America is the hammer of the earth. So the Lord said, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Why? Because the Lord is going to bring vengeance, you know, payback, justice. You know, you reap what you sow. The scriptures say that, man. You sow wickedness, you're going to reap wickedness. And what has America sown? Bloodshed, death, evil, you know, pestilence. This is what they've been doing for centuries. And now it's going to happen to them. All the stuff they've been doing to others is returning right back on their heads. You see? So it says, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware. And that snare is Iran. That is the snare the Lord has laid for America, you know. But, you know, the Lord got this place trapped up in all kinds of ways, man. Militarily, economically, you know, politically. This place is in shambles, man. There's nothing but divisions, right? And the Lord said he would do that to Egypt in Isaiah the 19th chapter. So we see nothing but divisions, man. But the snare that the Lord has laid for Babylon is Iran. Because once they go into Iran and try to do the same thing that they've done to those other Middle Eastern countries, that's going to be their ass. Because Iran is allies with Russia, China, and, you know, that whole coalition. But not only that, Iran could hold their own against America and NATO as far as a war of attrition. You know, of course, if it comes to nuclear missiles and all that, of course, America got it. But the Pentagon, they have like studies that showed that if they were to go to war with Iran, that they would get obliterated pretty much because they can't sustain that. America's broke. They spent trillions of dollars in those wars in the Middle East. They don't have any more money. You know, this is why Trump wants to steal Venezuela's oil, because America is broke. They need resources. All right. So they're going to try to do the same with Iran, but Iran going to give them that work, man. The Persians, they never really truly been conquered. You know, Alexander the Great, he the one that took them over. But as far as like foreign invaders taking over the land of Persia, no. That's a very hard land to conquer. They got mountains, you know, hundreds of miles, thousands of miles of rocky desert mountains, deserts all around. You know, they just have all these natural protection, so to speak. You know, so if they go there, they ain't gonna be able to resupply their troops, their ships, none of that. You know, Iran is gonna block the Strait of Hormuz, which will destroy the global economy. You know, and other countries are gonna get mad at America, at the white men in general. They're going to say, man, fuck that. You know, y'all the reason we in this shit. So fuck y'all, you know, hey, that's how it's going to happen. But it says, I'm going to read it again. Jeremiah 50:24, I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon, and thou was not aware, thou wert found and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. And the Lord said, what? Woe to you that strive with your maker. You know, you sitting here fighting against your home creator. What do you expect to happen, man? You know, you're going to get destroyed, man. How does the saying go? Your arms are too short to box with the Most High, man. So it says, the Lord have opened his armory. The Lord's armory is the missiles, and have brought forth the weapons of his indignation. The weapons of his indignation is the missiles. Isaiah 54, the Lord created the smith that blow the coals in the fire, right? Which is the missile, the whole technology for the missiles. It says, for this is the work of the Lord, Yahweh Shemashah, power of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. So this is the work of the Lord. This is the Heavenly Father doing this, man. Setting this place up for destruction, for judgment. You see? And just like how the dude said in the video, you know, America's fallen like all the previous greatest empires, man. Because the scriptures say what? There is nothing new under the sun. You know? The same path America's following, same path Rome followed. You know, and America is Rome 2.0. The scriptures say that Rome was due to come back. You know, the beast would have a deadly wound, but eventually it would be healed. And it would continue for a little season. So we're in that little season now. You know? We're in that little season now, and that little season about to be up. So this is why they're crashing out on a global level. With the wars, the tariffs, the sanctions. All of this is the sign of a failing empire, the sign of the fall of Edom, the so-called white man. In effect, 1611 KJV. I was gonna pop up 1611. Matter of fact, let's do this. Second Esdras. There it is. This is Second Esdras chapter 6, verse 9. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, is the end of this world, the end of this age. And Jacob, which is so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, are the beginning of the age to come. And what is that age? An age of righteousness, the age of Yahweh Shemashah's rulership and dominion over the whole entire universe, man. You know, that will be the golden age that will continue forever. You see, but the age, the time of the Gentiles is over with. Let's get it. This is the book of Luke, chapter 21. Slakia, Luke 21, verse 20. Is this Luke 21? Oh, there it is. This is Luke chapter 21, verse 24. It says, and they shall fall by the edge of the sword, which is the Israelites. We fell by the edge of the sword, starting with 70 AD, you know, all the way up until slavery, all the way up till now. It never stopped. We still falling by the sword, still getting shot, poison in our neighborhoods, you know. It says, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And that's what happened, the transatlantic slave trade. It says, in Jerusalem, which is the land of Israel, shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. So this is why you see Jewish people over there. Amalek. That's who they really are. They like to call themselves Jacob, and then call the white man, the rest of these so-called white people, Edom, when they're all Edomites, you know? So the Lord said it will be trodden down of the Gentiles, because pursuant to Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, it described how Edom would steal the Most High's holy land, you know? So that's how you know, those are Gentiles in the land, because it says Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So the times of the Gentiles is about to be fulfilled, and he gives the signs. So let me read some of them. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. And we see that. All kinds of signs. We got chariots, three-eye Atlas, right? They calling it that, but we know it's a chariot of the Lord doing all these wonders over there in space, you know? You got the sun spitting out geomagnetic storms of historical proportions that never seen before, to the point that they're warning of blackouts all over the earth because of them. And they now have to make new categories for calculating the storms, because the sun is producing the biggest storms it's ever produced. So now they got to create new categories, right? And it says, and in the moon and in the stars, we got all kinds of eclipses, all kinds of things going on, you know? It says, and upon the earth, distress of nations. So while all this is happening, all these sounds are happening in the heavens, down here you got distress of nations, you know? Tension is at an all-time high. You know, everybody got their hand on the trigger, their finger on the trigger. They ready to push the button, man. Russia got missiles in Venezuela now, man. You know? And with Trump in power over Babylon, he's causing a lot of distress, a lot of tension, you know? It says the sea and the waves roaring, and we see that. Tsunamis, you know, earthquakes happening all over the place, all over the world, including the oceans, where you have tsunami warnings. They're warning of mile-high tsunami, 1,000-foot high tsunamis, because of these earthquakes and volcano eruptions happening at unprecedented scale. Volcanoes that were dormant for thousands of years are all coming up alive. And scientists are spooked by these things, and they're saying something is not normal with how the earth is behaving. And that's because Yahweh Bashim al-Shah is getting ready to send judgment, man. So it says, men's heart failing them for fear and for looking after these things that are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So people are going to die of heart attacks from the things they're going to see in these last days. It says, and then shall they see the sign of see the Son of Man coming in the cloud with power and great glory. And at the end of it all, the icing on the cake, Yahweh Shah's second coming. Just when they thought it couldn't get worse, oh, no. Here come Yahweh Shah. It's just getting started, you know? That is going to be hell. Christians like to talk about the lake of fire and hell. That is going to be hell on earth when Yahweh Shah returns. It'll be hell on earth for the wicked. All right? So that's it on that. Now, let's see. Where is Obadiah? Oh, there you go. This is Obadiah, verse. I'm going to start at 15. Now, matter of fact, let me read verse 7. It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. That's speaking about America's allies, the so-called white men's allies, have turned on them and have brought them to the border. They brought you to battle. Because right now, these nations, just like you see Iran, how they're preparing, how they've been preparing for decades, for years, you got certain nations that's already, ready in case America turns the gun on them. Because they're seeing how America's doing their allies, how Trump is just turning around and betraying people, So they're setting your asses up. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. Yeah, man. So they're making deals, with each other to backdoor you. Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? This is why, they can't comprehend the different things that the Lord is doing as far as sign goes. They can't scientifically explain them, and they can't save themselves from this coming judgment with all the wisdom they have, man. Right? But I'm going to jump down to verse 15. It says, for the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. So this whole chapter, this whole book was dedicated to the destruction of Edom. But towards the end, it says the day of the Lord is near upon all the heathen. Going back to the times of the Gentiles being fulfilled and Esau being the end of the world, the end of this age, the age of the Gentiles, the heathens having authorship and leadership over the earth, authority and leadership over the earth. It says, and thou, as thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. Yeah, whatever they done to us, it's going to return on them. That's why the Lord said he's going to put the curses that he put on us on our enemies. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. So you're gonna be destroyed, man. You're gonna drink and swallow down and be as though you had not been. We ain't gonna remember all these great empires and all these so-called great achievements that you heathens have accomplished, man. The Lord is about to lay waste to everything you love. Pyramids of Giza, the Eiffel Tower, all these things are gonna be destroyed, man. But finish off with that. Lamentations chapter 4, verse 21. It says, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz, which is America. The cup also shall pass through unto thee, which is the cup of slavery, misery, affliction, right? The curses that befell upon us, that is that cup. The Lord said he's going to pass it right to these Edomites. It says, thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked, right? So you're going to be drunken with affliction, with the pain, and shall make thyself naked, meaning what? You will be exposed. All your sins that you've done in this life and all your past lives, the crimes that you committed against the children of Israel that you thought wasn't accounted for, the blood that you shed, when nobody was looking, the things you've stolen when nobody was seeing it, all of that will be revealed in that day. It says, the punishment of thy iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity of daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So no more slavery for us, because the times of the Gentiles is fulfilled. Now is the times of the gods, the times of the Israelites, right? The times of the righteous, the age of righteousness. That's what's coming, man. That's prophecy. Micah 4, Isaiah 2, it describes how we're going to teach the whole world. We're going to teach the nations the laws of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, because they're still going to be in the flesh. They're not going to have the new covenant, which comes with having a new body, a new mindset, and being programmed to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. That is going to be the world to come, the age to come, the times of Israel. Right? And it says, he will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So you will be exposed, man. But yeah, I'm going to close out. I hope this was edifying. So with that, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Hakwadash. Double honor to the apostles of GMS. They give us